Welcome back to Inside the Black Box. I'm Arshavir Blackwell. Today we're looking at a specific puzzle. What happens to factual knowledge inside GPT-2 when the model seems to know something but fails to say it? If you caught our previous episode on neural circuits, this builds directly on that work. Give GPT-2 a simple prompt. The capital of Finland is, and it answers not Helsinki. The obvious interpretation is that it never learned the fact, but that's not what's happening. Using the Logit lens, an interpretability tool that lets you examine predictions at each layer, not just the final output, you can track what the model is thinking at each step. At layer 11 out of 12, GPT-2 assigns Helsinki a 46% probability. It's the model's top prediction. The right answer is right there. Then at layer 12, that probability collapses and takes over. The model had the answer and then lost it. This isn't a one-off glitch. Track other facts and you see the same pattern. Paris, for the capital of France is, rises to the top mid-network, then drops in the final layer. Blue, for the color of the sky is, same thing. Knowledge emerges in middle layers and gets suppressed at the end. When you decompose that final layer, the transformer splits into attention and MLP components, and both contribute negatively to the correct answer. The MLP contribution is especially strong in the wrong direction. So you get this trajectory. Factual answers rise in probability, peak in middle layers, then get suppressed by generic tokens as the model approaches output. The model has the knowledge. It loses an internal competition just before generating text. This internal competition maps onto something from psycholinguistics that I find genuinely interesting. In the 1980s, Elizabeth Bates, one of my advisors at UCSD, proposed the competition model. The idea is that when people process language, multiple possible interpretations activate simultaneously. Different cues, grammar, word order, semantics, each contribute weight to candidates, and the most supported one wins by the time you understand the sentence. Inside GPT-2, you're seeing something structurally similar. Multiple candidate tokens, Paris, get activated in parallel. Attention heads in middle layers read the prompt and boost candidates based on context. At layer 10, for instance, attention heads that focus on France and capital increase the probability for Paris. But in the final layers, the model's learned priors reassert themselves. Generic tokens like get a systematic boost. The model has probably learned that after phrases ending with is, outputting is statistically safe across many contexts. So there's a genuine competition, specific factual knowledge versus generic statistical priors. What's striking is that the transformer isn't doing symbolic lookup. It's activating options based on cues and letting them compete, with the output determined by which candidate accumulates the most weighted evidence. That's not a metaphor for what the brain does. It's a similar computational strategy. This raises a question. Is this competition a deep feature of how any system processes sequential information? Not a locked vault of knowledge, but ongoing competition where the winner is sometimes the best answer and sometimes just the safest default. What happens at larger scale? You might expect bigger models to solve the problem. Not quite. Run the same analysis on GPT-2 XL. More parameters, 48 layers. For the capital of Finland is, it reaches nearly 100% confidence on Helsinki at layer 41. That high probability holds for about 10 layers. But even in this larger model, the final layers chip away at it, and the still edges ahead at output. The factual signal is stronger and persists longer, but still gets suppressed. Here's what's interesting, though. If you let GPT-2 XL continue generating, it often finds an indirect route to the fact. For the capital of France is, it outputs the, then continues with city of Paris. The knowledge wasn't erased. It got rerouted through a more hedged structure that eventually expresses the right answer. Suppression acts more like a detour than deletion in that case. That pattern has a human analog. When direct recall fails, you often retrieve information indirectly, fumbling through associations until the right memory surfaces. GPT-2 XL is doing something similar. The candidate that lost the first competition can still win a later one. Looking at Logit Lens data across longer outputs, the picture is clear. Factual knowledge isn't static or uniformly accessible. In bigger models, there's more signal behind correct answers, and sometimes enough to express them, even if only through indirection. This reframes what we mean by capability. The model often isn't failing because it never learned a fact. It's failing because its architecture suppresses confident recall in favor of generic output, until context gives the fact another chance. That's where we'll leave it for today. Thanks for listening. I'm Arshavir Blackwell, and I will see you next time on Inside the Black Box.